live. Now we're live? Okay. We
Stressing
should be
me
live
out.
now. What's going on, D-Bags? Hope you guys are doing well. Back here again with another episode of the Detox Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Rita. Feel free to connect with me at any of the links down below. If you're new here and you enjoy music, podcasts, or comedy, do consider subscribing because we got a whole lot of that going on around here. And we're like 3 subs away from 700, so we might be able to do that live today. Now, I've got a really, really cool guest to introduce to you guys today, and we're going to have some interesting conversations about acting and extra work and all that good stuff. But before I introduce you guys to him, I have to talk to you guys a little bit about car insurance. These days, it seems as if we're able to do more and more from home. So while you're at home, why aren't you saving money on your car insurance? Your hometown agency, Kenosha Auto Insurance, has specialized for years in simple, hassle-free car insurance using the latest and touch-free technology to help you and your family get the best rates. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today at 262-448-4141. That is 262-448-4141. And the website is kenoshains.com. It's on the screen right now. Give them a call today. The worst that could happen is you will get the best rates. Tell them D-Rita, D-Talk sent you. I promise they'll hook you up. I had some people reach out to me last week. They called them and they got set up very well. Now, with all that out of the way, I'm pumped to introduce you guys to my guest this week. He's a actor from Peoria Heights, Illinois, who has been in projects such as we got Crime Stoppers, Case Files, Chicago, and Rap Mom. He has worked with the likes of Michael Magruder and Chance the Rapper. So without further ado, let's give a wet detox welcome to Seth Boyer. How are you, man?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm pumped, man. It's Monday. I can't complain. I'm here doing the thing. So we're excited to have you here in the studio, and I'm thankful that you're here. That you're here with us. So.
Of course. Wouldn't miss it.
It's interesting how we actually came to meet and how this podcast ended up happening is we actually met on set.
Sure did. Mick Jenkins' music video. I believe it was called Truffles, right?
Yeah.
The song.
I don't know if the song is out yet or if it's the song's not out yet. I don't think, and I don't think the music video is still not out yet.
Yeah, so. I'm waiting. I'm checking the clock, refreshing the Instagram feed. It's not there. We'll see. Sometimes I feel like it takes a couple weeks, but this one, as I said, it might take, at this point, if it's not out yet, maybe a couple months. But
yeah, I mean, we won't get into like all the details of what they were shooting, but I mean, they were doing like we were talking before we went live. You mentioned, I mean, the cinematography itself was done very well, and they were putting a lot of effort into like the set design. I mean, clothing, all the extras, and what they were doing seemed pretty ambitious. So I think that video is going to take some time, but it was really cool. And this was my second time doing any type of extra work, acting, if you will, whatever. And I got to meet some really cool people, yourself included. And I found out that you have now been pursuing acting for a little while here now, and you actually dropped out of school to do this.
Yeah, I dropped out of college and when I was in college, I had so many different majors. I went there as an education major to physical therapy. I even did pre-dental. I thought I was going to do something with teeth. I bounced around. I pretty much just Googled what were the best paying jobs and just switched my major to that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like a couple semesters in, I realized if I'm going to be paying, close to 6 figures for a degree, I might as well, get it in something I enjoy. So I, went to acting. I was always into the arts as a kid.
Yeah.
And, I ended up dropping out after I think it was my third semester there, and had, my grades were good. My parents weren't too happy about it,
How's that conversation go?
I was in my dorm room. I lived in a single dorm room, so I didn't have a roommate. I was in my dorm room. I remember the lights were off. It was a dim, sad day. Just missed all my classes.
Oh my God.
And I called my mom first, and I told her, I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do it. I'm having fun taking these theater classes. It was the first time that I, enjoyed college, and I was actually passionate for my classes.
Yeah.
But I was asking my professors some questions, and they weren't able to answer them for me. Like I was asking, like, how do I get an agent in Chicago? Like, what's the industry like in Chicago? And once I realized they couldn't answer it for me, I'm like, I need to get educated. I need to get educated in the root of the city, the heart of the city. So I stopped going to school and almost immediately took classes at all the acting studios down there, which was one of the best decisions I made, because at that point I was learning from actors who are auditioning, who have agents. I was networking, meeting people who have been on these shows.
Yeah.
No disrespect to like my professors, because I did learn a lot, but they weren't auditioning. They weren't like actors. They were teachers.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. But I learned a lot at my time at Bradley.
Yeah. So when you decide to have you always been into acting then? Like how early on did you love film growing up? Like how did you decide that? How was that flame rekindled and kind of brought you that way?
Yeah, so growing up, I knew I was always into the arts. At first, it was music. I, loved guitar. I got an electric guitar like when I was 10 or 11 years old. So I, did that for years. That's what I wanted to do. All the inspiration I got, everything that inspired me came from music.
Really cool.
Yeah, I started watching a bunch of films and realized, these can bring out crazy emotions too. So I started getting inspired by a lot of films. So then in high school, I remember I always wanted to be an actor. I came from a small town, again, Peoria Heights, Illinois. So when I had this conversation with anybody, it was kind of like not frowned upon, but it was like not supported, not like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I told a couple of my teachers, and I remember most of them were kind of like leaning towards, you're in the wrong place, Peoria Heights, you got to move to LA. Or one even said jokingly, I'll never forget it, you're going to be a waiter for a very long time if you're going to pursue acting. And there was one teacher, Mrs. Smallwood, that said that, she really pushed for it. She's like, yeah, join the drama club, join theater. I think you can be really good at it. Mm-hmm. And I should have listened to her because I didn't. Because, I still had that voice in my head that, you know what, they're right. I'm in Peoria Heights. There's no one around me that's pursuing it. So, and then I got there was like this McDonald's commercial casting local for me. It was a local casting call. It never happens in Peoria Heights. Someone tagged me on it on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm missing school or work. I forget what I had the next day, and I'm showing up to this, and I showed up to it. They really needed people my age. I remember I went in there, and I didn't know what audition was. I went in there. I'm in a line with people with headshots and resumes. I'm sitting there. I'm first in line because I got there early. I had nothing. I went in there, and they gave me a script, and I know I butchered it and did horrible. Like, I know it was a really bad, awkward time.
Yeah.
But they really needed people they needed high schoolers. So that's why I booked my first acting job, and that's kind of like what started the fire. But even after that, I still kind of was like, okay, that was a one thing.
Was that like a commercial then for McDonald's?
It was a McDonald's.
Oh, really
commercial.
cool. Do you have that? Is that somewhere like on YouTube that you've been able to like rewatch since?
My grandma has a BlackBerry recording of it.
Oh,
like
my
how
God.
you record it.
Yeah.
That's all I got, and it's like it's so crappy because I can't even use it for like a reel or to show it because it's literally like a BlackBerry,
like 2-pixel
BlackBerry quality.
Oh,
I like Blackberries, but I mean it's just. But yeah, so I have some evidence of it, but it's not like
it did happen, regardless if anybody knows or not.
Yes.
That's super cool. Like, what is like the auditioning process? Like, obviously not counting that experience, but as you've been growing into acting and you've been learning more and pursuing it more, what goes into an audition? Like, how do you first off get one?
Yeah.
And then secondly, like, what is your personal process of like trying to deal with that? And then what is it like when you get in the room?
Yeah, so as of lately, because of COVID, all of them have pretty much been self-tapes. You record it in your room. You buy a little self-tape setup, lights like these. Yeah. You get a plain backdrop or just a plain white wall, and, you record it there. But before that, you usually you'd get, like, if you're lucky, you might get the audition a couple days before, sometimes the day of, like, hey, you have to be here at 8 o'clock. You go there, you get the scene, you try to rehearse it. You go into a room with people you don't know, just, like, looking at you. Before that, you're waiting in a line with people dressed like you, that look like you, but they all look a little bit better. They all they all have a little bit more experience. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And then you go in this
kind of kick in, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, you look at that guy's resume. He's been in that. Like, he's gonna book that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of torn between if I like the self-tape process more or if I enjoy like the old school going there, because you really have a chance to build off the energy. With self-tapes, you don't have that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what the process is like. And you can get auditions from, there's even great opportunities like on Facebook, honestly, like if you join the right, like, casting calls and casting pages. If not from that, you can sign up for like the bigger acting websites like Actors Access. That's where you'll find a lot of the bigger jobs that you pay a lot more and are speaking roles. And
how, like, with looking online for stuff like that, I know for like groups and maybe casting call pages, as well as like actual acting schools and teachers online, I know there's some like big scammers out there.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the one. It was something, and I don't want to like totally slander a company, but it was something like Casablanca.
100%.
Yeah,
it's well known.
It was 100% like a scammer.
1000%. But what's crazy is like so what they do, from my experience, because they'll pretty much, they'll be like, we're interested in signing you to our agency. You'll go there and they end up saying, okay, you can be a part of our agency. We like what you have for $2,000. We'll take you under our wing. And the people who do sign for that, they will they will get these people jobs, but they're jobs that you can find yourself. Like that music video, they would have said, hey, we got this awesome job for you, and send you on that music video we did, but we found that like
we're gonna take a cut too, and
and they're gonna take a percent of that, but those are the jobs you find yourself. They're gonna try to get you extra work or work again you can find on Facebook, and they're gonna take a cut from it. Wow. That's from my experience. But there are stories of like actors that have made it today. Like I know a couple. I know like Keith Stanfield. I don't know if you know him. He's from Get Out.
Yeah.
He did that. He started off with the John Casablanca.
Yeah.
And he never had anything bad to say with it. But it's weird. It's a weird thing. I know exactly what agency you're talking about, and that's my take on it. I'm pretty sure that's what they do.
Because I got called, they had called me like a year or two ago and asked me to like, they were like, hey, we saw whatever video of you or picture of you and we'd like whatever. And I'm like, I had never done any acting at that point. I'm like, what did you see? Like a video on my YouTube channel and you want to book me for like bullshit, dude.
At least, hey, they never contacted me. I'm jealous now, man.
Well, no, don't. I remember just thinking like, this is absolute bullshit. Like there's no way. And then like I remember they wanted me, then like, it's so weird because they're like talking you up. Oh, we really want you. We really want whatever. But then here's the kicker: you got to pay.
Yep.
See, that doesn't make sense to me because this is the thing. Like I think we talked about this. Or I was talking about this with a couple of extras when we were at that shoot. It's so weird and heartbreaking, honestly, in like the entertainment industry, is that there's so many people willing to scam and make a quick dollar off people whose eyes are wide and they have this dream that they want and they're chasing. 100%. It happens in music a ton. I've only done a little bit of acting, so I've only seen it a little bit there. But in music, anytime I go on my Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I'm getting a message from somebody about how, oh, we loved this song, blah, 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 blah. You should submit it here. I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah, I will. Here, you heard it. You loved it, right? So submit it then. Oh, well, actually, we need you to pay $50 to do.
100%, yeah.
Oh, so $50 to maybe win this thing. I thought you said it would win the thing. I thought you said it is your favorite track. And so I'm a dick. Because when I first started, you're like, wait, really? Me? Because that's what you want to think, like as like this like wide-eyed, like, oh my god, this is my dream, whatever. And then after it happens a few times, you become jaded and you're like, dude, fuck you, get out of my face. Like,
that's big. I'm big with the brand ambassadors on my Instagram.
Oh my
I'll be
God.
messaged like, hey, we love your style, we love your look, we want you to be our brand ambassador, wear our clothes.
Yeah.
I remember a couple years ago, I'm like, cool, sign me up. They're like, all right, like just go buy it and then like just post pictures and we'll like share it. I'm like, so I have to buy.
So you want me to buy the product so that I can then sell it for? That doesn't make any sense. No, it's crazy, and I think it's what's like super sad about it is that it's literally just like trying to squeeze people that can't afford it anyways. Like I am broke, dead broke, chasing this dream that I have. Like it is literally like I'm just staring at the stars, wishing this thing would happen, and putting all of my energy into it. And here you come to try and just scam me for whatever little money I do have.
And this is still going on, even like at the level, like I'm not at a high level with acting. I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm happy with where I'm at. But it's even at the level I'm at because every single, like all these speaking roles and all these big jobs, like the pay has decreased by so much because people are willing to do it for less because they're so like, almost in a weird way, they're desperate. There's people doing these big roles for.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, one of my first bigger roles, I remember my friend was a part of the same job, like the same show, like a couple of years ago, and he told me how much he got paid, and then I did it, and the pay's down like by a huge percentage, and that's just because people are willing to do it. And I'm like, yeah, like it's fine, like I'm not, I'm willing to do it. So that's even happening on a bigger scale.
And it sucks because it's like it puts like the actors or the people, the talent that wants to pursue this thing in a weird position, because it's like, if I want to stick up for myself and be like, this big of a part, I should be getting paid this much. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's great. Well, this guy says he's gonna do it, so we're gonna take him then.
100%.
And it's like that's what kind of sucks about it.
Even like in not even just like entertainment industry, but they'd rather pay like a manager at a job. Would they rather pay the person who's been doing it for 30 years the higher salary he deserves, or they're gonna pick up a 20-year-old off the streets that's willing to do it for $10 an hour? They're gonna pay that 20-year-old.
Yeah.
So that's what's crappy about it, and it's going on in not only the entertainment industry but everywhere.
Yeah, most definitely. What do you think, like, as somebody who's trying to maneuver this sort of very interesting field of work, what are some tips, if you have any? What have you done to see success, or when you've seen success, what were the things or pathways that you took?
I think the biggest thing with this industry, and most likely any artistic industry, is just kind of to be diligent and always be open to learn. Like I feel like no matter how many classes I've taken, how many people I've learned from, all the tips and stuff I've gotten, there's still so much for me to learn. Just to always be, your head open, and just like, I don't know, you just always have to be willing to learn. I think that's the biggest thing with it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people come in with like a big head. They think they're a natural at it, and some people are, but really there's so much people have been putting in time and money and effort, and you have to get educated. It's just like any other field. You have to go get educated, whether that's classes at a university or classes at like an acting studio, or whether that's just in your room really grinding, watching movies, taking notes, practicing scenes by yourself in front of friends.
Yeah.
So I think it's just to always stay humble and always be diligent, and just always be open to learn, because I feel like a lot of people, once they get to a certain spot, like once they book one role, they'll be like, okay, I've made it. I'm done with classes. I'm not learning anymore because I booked Chicago PD or something,
Yeah, which is interesting. I think you brought up a good point there. Being able, like, open to learning, I think is probably even more like crucial in a field like acting, because you're under direction. You're always under direct. I feel like you have to be extremely coachable to be, really good. Obviously, there's going to be people, like you said, that are naturals, and maybe they make it to the top very quick, and they might be divas or whatever on set, but those people have made it. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
While you're on the way up, I feel like if you can be extremely coachable, if you can be extremely good to work with, people are going to want to book you more.
100%.
That's like was one of the first things. My uncle, he's the one who showed me like how to get on Chicago Fire, and so I did like this big crossover thing a couple of years ago with him.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, and it was a really cool experience. But we're driving on our way there, and he's explaining to me, is like, it's really important that just you be yourself, and you be authentic and respectful to everybody, because you don't know what PA is going to be the director tomorrow. Is going to have their own whatever. Like, you don't know.
Treat the janitor like the director.
Exactly, and it's so true, because dude, like the person whatever PA is getting like just absolutely lit up right now, screamed at by whatever assistant director, and then he comes over to you and he's asking you and a couple other extras to move, and you want to be that difficult guy. No, like whatever, you're talking over and whatever. And then he's the director for a casting or something that you want next, and you're applying for. How's that going to go?
Exactly.
He's going to remember, or she's going to remember you, and they're going to, And so I think it's just, even if it's for the wrong reason, if it's for a selfish reason, you can still do the right thing. So, please, at the bare minimum, be kind, I would say to people.
Be kind, and just, again, keep that open mind, because I've learned things from, everyone from, like, the crew to extras to, the co-stars. You just want to sit there and just observe and see, how like the higher up people react to certain people's mannerisms, and you just want to carry yourself with respect, because it is like a professional business. Like, I've worked on some things where some people are just kind of not taking it serious. You want to have fun, it's a fun environment. You want to make it memorable and a good time, but there's a happy medium, and if you're directable, like you said, and you can take direction and listen to directors, I mean, it just goes a long way, and that's like half the business, and it just helps with networking, which is all of the business pretty much.
Yeah, which makes sense. What would you say is like the biggest thing you should avoid as like an up and coming actor, someone who wants to get into acting? If I, let's say I hadn't done these couple of small things, if I'd never done anything, extra work, anything, what should I avoid before I get into the industry?
I think the thing you should avoid is definitely skipping all of the steps, like the required steps. Again, everyone's route is different in this industry. Everyone makes it to the top differently. Some people they start booking right off the bat. Some people get an agent right off the bat, but you never know. You can't rely on luck. You have to really, take the required steps. And as I mentioned, that's like, get comfortable with acting. Ask yourself if you even want to do it. Be an extra. Being an extra is a great way to start, and see how a big set works. And it makes you realize, if you really want to do it, because you're going to be working 12-hour days, and as an extra, you're going to be sitting 9 hours of those, and even as like an actor, the bigger products or the bigger productions that you book, half the time it's just sitting around and really, studying the script and material. So I feel like just not skipping any of the steps, because a lot of people they start off and they go get, their mom takes their pictures in their backyard. Those are their headshots, and they apply to agencies. It's like, take your time. When you first start off, definitely do free work, do the student work, do the extra work, do it all, because you're going to learn something from all those
Every
productions.
experience, yeah.
100%. My first 2-3 years I was doing free work. I did, last year I was still doing free work. It took 4 years to finally like make some money off of
Yeah.
it, and it's not even like I'm rolling in the the cash or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
It's like, but it just you really have to be humble about it. Like, there's always going to be someone that's better than you. There's always going to be someone that would do it for less than you. Just, I don't know, just know your worth and just stay humble and just don't skip those steps.
Do it because you love it, not because you're trying to get the quick paycheck, because that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, no.
That's just not what if you're, especially with a field like that where it's super oversaturated and there's tons of people, like you said, that will do it for less, and will work under worse conditions, and will do will cut whatever corners they have to. Like, it's something where you should be doing it because you want to do it, not because you think you're going to be this millionaire. You should do it because you want to be an actor. Obviously, we'd love to make it and not have to worry about, working other jobs and scramble it, not being able to eat someday, whatever. But you got to do it because the first thing you need to do it because you love it, and don't skip steps, like you said. I think that's a great advice.
Yep, 100%. And I started off in this weird position because my first thing I ever did was that commercial that I mentioned, the McDonald's commercial. So it wasn't like a small student film where I wasn't getting nothing. So I did this, this big commercial where I did get paid, and I did, I got paid well, and I was treated really well on set, and it almost felt like, in a weird way, I got that because I was in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely didn't, have a great audition or anything. They literally booked me because they needed people like my age.
Mm-hmm.
So, since starting off with that, after that I heavily pursued it, I'm like, oh wait, I have to do these student films. I have to do all this free work. But it's just, you have to work your way up. It's just like, to be a mailman, you're gonna be working the floors first, messing with the packages, and so you have to work your way up.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta learn to walk before you learn to run, right?
Yeah,
that's just the
100%.
whole thing with any kind of career field, especially when it comes to like the arts. I think there's a lot of paying dues, and sadly it's all about who you know.
100%.
I think that's like across everything in life, like business related, like anything in this world is about who you know. Like, people are going to go with who they know and who they can trust to do the job over taking a risk. Like, that's just how we are as people. We don't want to take the risk. If I know Seth is going to kill this role, why am I going to call this other person to audition for it? If I know him, he's reliable, he's good, and I liked working with him before.
That's it. I mean, there's even, once you get to some level, people aren't even auditioning for things. They're like, oh, I've worked with that guy. I know he can pull off this character. Bring him in. We'll have him read maybe, but I want to work with him.
Yeah, or some people write like whole scripts with somebody in mind.
100%. And that's based off networking as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back, that's the biggest reason why I stopped. I dropped out of college. I was studying what I wanted there, but I just felt like there was more for me to learn. There was more. I was missing something there, and I think it was the networking, because although I was, learning from these professors that have been doing it for years, they weren't too keen or in touch with like the industry today. So I'm like, I was told so much like how important it is to network with like people that are in the industry. So that's when I stopped going to school there.
They probably focus more on like the craft itself, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
more
like
so than the business side of things, of trying to get your own roles and things like that, getting an agent and whatnot. So.
Yeah, so it was very like serious theater there, like, and then, which I enjoyed, but again, like, I would ask questions like, how do these auditions for these agencies go? Like, how do I impress a director down there for TV and film? And they just, couldn't answer it for me. So like, that's when I said, I don't want to spend 6 figures for something that I don't know how far it'll get me. Yeah. Because, a theater degree doesn't guarantee anything, sadly. If I could have got it for free, I'd still be there. But, I was paying a lot of money and putting a lot of time and effort into it.
Yeah, which makes sense, man. I mean, it's a big, with degrees in like music or theater or something like that, or even film. I have a friend who is going to school for film, and he's considering, not finishing, because it's just, you don't need to go. There's a lot of really great directors that never went to film school. They just picked up the camera and they just learned. They sucked, and they figured, okay, how do I fix this thing? Okay, that's how I fix that thing. Yeah. Now I learned how to do that, and it's similar, different with acting, different with music and stuff like that. But there's a lot you can learn, from just doing it. And I think, not saying that people shouldn't go to college for those things, because I'm sure
100%.
there's people can get value out of them. I'm sure. But you mentioned, asking questions about agents and whatnot. I want to know a little bit about, how you get an agent, then what's like the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to agents and whatnot, or agencies.
Yes. So the ugly, let's just start off, is the obvious, like if they're gonna ask for money up front, like they're gonna ask for any type of payment, then that's obviously like a no-go. Some will heavily recommend certain classes or certain photographers because there might be their friend, but they won't force them. Like even my agency, they're like, if you want to take classes, go down to this one. Like they're great, but there was no like you have to take classes, spend $400 on this.
Yeah.
So as soon as an agency requires you to pay any type of money, that's a red flag, because the only time agents get paid is when you book something from them, and then they only get usually 10 to 20%. So like that's the only time they'll get paid. So if they're asking for money or anything that really makes you feel uncomfortable, then that's a red flag. As far as how to get one or like the requirements, that's something kind of, it's different for everyone too, because I've met people who just get really good headshots and they have no acting experience, but they paid for really good headshots and they have a good look. Some agents will be like, I'm gonna give you a chance, I'm gonna give you a shot, I want you to go in classes, you can pick whatever classes, but take some classes, I'm gonna sign you, because you have that look. Sometimes it's that easy. For me, it wasn't. I started applying for agencies probably too early, like most people do, which was a mistake. It took me 3 years maybe to just get called in for an agency, and I didn't even get signed, but
what do you think? But you said too early. Did you think it like hurt your chances to ever sign with those certain agencies by applying super early, or did you apply to like everybody and then were you able to later then when you had the experience make it?
Thinking back, I don't know if it hurt my chances, but I can see situations where it will. Like if you like apply for these big top dog agencies with like, again, a selfie in your bathroom and your resume has nothing on it, not even like high school theater, like really nothing. That might hurt your chances a little bit, but I'm not sure by how much. But yeah, again, I applied probably a little too early, just in the sense that I wasn't ready. Like even when I got called in 2-3 years later for an agent, I was sitting there like, I just knew I wasn't ready. So it's probably good that I didn't book that agency, because they weren't going to make any money off me. We weren't going to be able to do business or anything. So just make sure you're ready. Make sure you're comfortable with acting and acting in front of others. That's a big thing too. You don't know how hard it is you can study in your room all the time and practice monologues, but try doing that on stage, like on theater with 500 people watching, and then you'll realize that this takes some stones.
Well, that is definitely true. I mean, I haven't done a whole lot of acting, obviously, as I've talked to you about, but I did take a little bit of acting in college, and I remember like practicing my monologues at home versus actually doing that monologue in class was a completely different story. And this is like 20 people. This is a very intimate, small school that I was going to college at. And just even doing that, I was just like, oh my God.
100%.
These people. And I felt like, honestly, I will say this though, because I'm someone who, I actually don't mind public speaking. I know a lot of people are really like growing up, they're really like nervous around public speaking. I don't really care about that. I mean, I talk shit or trying to talk shit for a living. So I mean, it's not a big deal for me. But when it comes to like the acting in that sense, I would have much rather almost preferred it be in like in front of a larger crowd or like a crew that I didn't know the names of anybody
100%.
Than these people that I was like kind of friends with, that I had like known from other classes I had in college, and I played on the basketball team, so like they knew me from that, and I guess I was just like projecting and feeling like, oh, they're thinking this about me because I was on the basketball team. So definitely made it harder, was in my own head about it, but it's totally different than being in your room practicing the monologue to going out in front of everybody.
I'll never forget my first monologue performing in front of my class. I probably had like 10 people in it, but yeah, just like you said, it's the leg starts shaking a little bit. You're up there like, they see my leg shaking, like, oh, this is going bad. It's crazy stuff. It really takes a lot of practice. And the first play I ever did, there was a pretty decent audience for it, and like we had lots of rehearsal. So, and at this point I was already, I would consider myself like a professional. I was doing it for years. I did it for a couple classes. But something unique and beautiful about plays and theater in general, you can be on stage and there can be a huge audience, 200, 300 people, but you almost, if you're really into that character, you're up there, you're so vulnerable, you're everyone's watching you, but at the same time you almost feel invisible because you're in a character in a weird sense, depending on how you how you go for acting, whether you have that mindset or not. But some of the plays I've done, I really I feel like rehearsals or even auditions are harder than performing in front of like those big crowds, because you kind of jump in this mindset of someone else. Seth isn't up there, someone else, this character is up there, you know, so it's kind of comforting as long as you know the lines.
That's a really cool way of putting it. That I've never thought about it that way. That's really neat. So like what is the steps then for getting an agent then? Like how could I do that step by step?
Yeah, so pretty much if someone asked me that, I would just always say start taking classes. It helps if they're kind of notable classes, because Chicago is so small. I'm starting to learn how small it is. Like everyone knows my teachers, you know, from the classes I took in Chicago. Like, oh, you've took a class from her. Like, oh, I booked her on this movie a couple days ago, or oh, she booked me because that, you know, teacher is a casting director too. Everyone kind of knows everyone. So if you start off taking these beginner classes in Chicago, work your way up. You don't have to take all of them, but, you know, take some improv classes, take some, you know, acting classes. From there, start doing that student film work. You can find student films everywhere, especially in Chicago. There's so many awesome colleges that are always casting for student films. And the awesome thing about, you know, the colleges in Chicago is like they have great equipment. You're going to get good footage. You might not be getting paid on some of these student films, but you're going to get great footage. It's not just like, you know, a friend down the street wants to record a movie. It's like these are colleges with lots of money. They have good equipment. So start doing that work. Maybe try background work so you can see how a set is, like I mentioned earlier. Learn the lingo. I've only done background work actually only like probably 5 times total, and because I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to just do background work. It's kind of like this weird thing we can get stuck in. But my first couple times, I just sat there and mouth was zipped. I'm sitting there and I'm observing. I'm listening to, you know, all the lingo they're using. Like there's so many things to learn on set. Like I just learned what a pancake was, like even a couple days ago.
What's a pancake?
Exactly. So like when they're doing like a close-up shot on 2 people's heads, and if one is a lot taller than the other, they get a pancake, which is like a piece of wood the other actor stands on. But they call it, like, I would have never known that was called a pancake. I'd be like, just get the platform piece of wood thing. But even like, and I just learned that recently, you know, just working on this big movie. And like, so that's why my ears are always open. Just always just watch and observe, and you can learn from everyone. I've been inspired by so many people, you know, at all types of levels, and I've learned from so many people at all types of levels as well. Yeah. So once you get the headshots, once you get some of those classes, once you get
how much are good headshots usually? Like fairly priced headshots? Because that's another thing too. I feel like some people will have like, you know, they just have a nice camera, or like they're like, oh, I'll charge you this much for headshots, and it's like, wait, is that how much it should actually cost for these headshots, or are you trying to scam me because I don't know anybody else?
Some people can pull that off. I've seen some people where, like, again, I mentioned earlier, their mom took headshots, and you can tell sometimes I'm like, hold up, those are good. Yeah. Acting headshots are very weird because I can't even really tell you what is unique about them, but you can just kind of tell. You know, they kind of look cinematic. A lot of people in Chicago, they have that eye where even with my headshots, they'll know exactly who it's from. I'm like, whoa, like you can even tell, you know, which photographer took my headshots. Like that's how known they are, and because they've been in Chicago for so long, they have a very certain type of feel on them. Wow. So I've gotten headshots a couple times, and the first time I paid $300 for it. Second time I paid a little over $400 for it, and it's definitely got me in the room so many times. I've been straight up told like, hey, we like your headshots so much, we're gonna bring you for an audition just based off that. They didn't even see my reel or anything. So I think it really does pay off at a certain level. Again, I don't think you need it the first week you start acting, because no one really needs, you know, take it slow. You might decide you might not, you know, like doing it because it is expensive, and I hope I don't want to pay for headshots for a little bit longer because they're expensive, but they can range from like $300 to about $500 for the known ones down there. You can find them cheaper though, but that's been the ones I went with.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy to think like starting out like it is something you need, and obviously as we're talking about the steps, getting an agent, right, and getting to an agency, like it's an important step, and it's crazy that it's like there's this barrier of entry almost, which is that getting a reel together, all these things. So
I think a big misconception too is just how much money you're going to be putting in your first couple of years, and you're going to be making probably none. Like again, disregard that commercial I did, my first 2-3 years, I was spending thousands every year. Again, I was in Peoria Heights at the time, so I was driving to Chicago for auditions and back. Imagine that drive back. You drive 3 hours there, audition for 30 seconds, mess it up, you drive home 3 hours. Imagine that drive back. You have a long time to think about what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm spending $50 on gas to get here and there. You know, can I pull this off from this small town? I need to move. You just think about, it's easy to think about the negative things in this career. And that's why I think it's good to surround yourself by these, you know, people who you can learn from and stuff. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's very unique. Yeah.
It definitely is. So after you got the headshots, you've maybe got a reel together, and you've done a little bit of acting, maybe some extra work, like you were saying. How do you apply for agencies? Do agencies reach out to you? Is it both?
Yes. So 99% of the time, you'll probably apply for the agency. You can go right on their website. They might have a form for you to fill out. Some of them are a little bit more, like this, a lot longer than the others. Some of them are simply send headshot and resume. That's it. Yeah. Some of them, they want to know your height, your weight, your inseam, your you know, everything. They just want to know everything. And so a lot of them there's different levels to it. But yeah, you just apply online and wait back, hopefully like in 2-3 months. And I'd say if you don't hear back, obviously they either have someone that they have too much clients that have your look, or maybe there's not a lot of casting looking for someone like you, or just maybe you're not ready at that point. They see your stuff, they're like, you're not ready. Because that was the first audition I went for. They're like, we really like you, we like your look, you have something, but we just want you to work on a little bit more commercial stuff, right? We want you to do some commercial classes because we really like you, we want to work together. So again, for the first time I auditioned for an agency, they sent me with some advice, and I took it, you know, full force, and I learned a lot from it. You know, I was bummed out at first, but then I realized, like, you know, that was an awesome experience. You know, it's practice, and I know what I need to work on. They gave you something
to build on too. That's important, because I feel like, you know, them just saying like, it's not it, Seth. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, that wouldn't do you any good. That's just like, damn, not good enough. Like, that's all you would think. But at least they gave you like, here's a launching off point. Like, there's something there. You just need to hone that in. I think that's much more inspiring. And it's probably a better way to look at it for yourself too, your own mental health.
100%. The 100%. And even getting called in for an audition, like, in general, is probably the biggest win, because like half the time they're getting 800 people submitting for it, and they'll call in 25 people. So whether it's a role or an agency. So it's already a win. Treat that like a win, you know, celebrate that to an extent. And then the chance to go into audition, that's just like your chance to perform. Don't treat it like a job interview. Just go there to perform. They're looking for something, obviously. They're looking for a piece to this film that they really need. Walk in there like you're that piece, you know, be confident. And I think that's the biggest thing to it. But yeah, again, like, I feel like most people, they'll get called in. I know personally, I probably, out of 100 submissions, I'll get 8 auditions, and I'll book 0.3 of them. So that's like that's my record right now. Yeah. I'm like 30 and 560. That's my record.
It's a tough, it's a hard job, man. Yeah. It really is. It's a hard career to try and get into. What's maybe your worst or maybe your funniest like acting audition experience?
I have the worst audition story ever. You want to hear it?
I do. I absolutely do.
It was just kind of oddly recently. So last summer, as I mentioned, a lot of auditions went to self-tapes. Yeah. Right? So there wasn't in-person auditions anymore. I was cool with that because I had all the gear. I had all the self-tape gear set up. This was last summer. I get this audition for this awesome movie. I studied for it. I thought I sent in you know what? I did. I recorded one of the best auditions I ever did. I felt great about it. Sent it in. Wait a couple weeks, nothing. Okay, I didn't book it. Literally like 3 weeks ago, I'm looking through my Gmail, like your Google Drive. You can see like all the videos you send in. And I was looking through like all my past auditions, like, oh, like that's funny. And I see this one video, it said like 8 minutes long. I'm like, why'd I send in an 8-minute audition? Yeah. I click on it, and it's a completely unedited video of me like auditioning and talking to myself and talking to my girlfriend for this role. Oh, and I remember the first like 2 seconds is me like,
oh my God.
Like the first,
like getting ready to go.
Yeah, I was like getting ready, dancing. I'm like, oh my God.
So that's what you sent in, man.
100%. And I was like, I was wondering why. Like, I'm like, man, they ain't calling me in for auditions recently. So now it's not making sense. But now I'm in this weird part where that was a year ago. So it's like, I just found out about this. So it's like, do I like say sorry? Do I remind them of it? Maybe they forgot. Maybe I just move on. Or should I, be professional? And obviously I didn't mean to send in a horrible 8-minute video of me. I don't even know what was in the video, Darren.
Oh my God.
I don't even know what was in the video. It could have been... But like it was 8 minutes long worth of preparing. I don't even know if I sent in the scene. I don't know how I made this big of a mistake, but that's just another thing I learned from, like, hey, you got to take your time, be patient. Now I triple watch everything I send in.
That's, hey, you live and you learn, right?
I've 100%, but
that's crazy.
that was like the worst. I remember I almost threw up when I figured out. I'm like, oh my God. And it was like, it's one of like the more well-known, like casting agencies in Chicago. So that's what sucks. And it's been a year. So it might happen all the time. So maybe they forgot, or maybe I'm just known as that guy who,
that provided them some entertainment.
That sneezed in the first second of the audition.
Gosh.
Yeah. So it was just like, it was bad, but that was again, I learned from it, and I'm bouncing back. I'm walking with the chest up, still throwing punches.
Yeah.
And I still don't know whether to message them or not and say sorry. Like,
so you haven't booked anything else with them since, I'd imagine?
Truly, I haven't even. There hasn't been much things I've applied for, but I've probably applied for 3 things from them in the past year, so that they might not be calling me in because I wasn't the right fit, or because I sent in a horrific 8-minute video with God knows what in it. I deleted it before I could watch it all. I was like, I can't even do this to myself.
Yeah, it's like, you might as well at that point. It'd be like crumpling up like a bad letter, or like a bad old love letter or something you had, and just throwing that away and get that out of here.
Again, I'm happy it's not one of like the biggest, casting agencies in Chicago, but they post work and they post, great stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I'll decide to, I kind of knew. So I've worked with them before. I've booked with them before, actually. Okay. And so like I know the people who have probably seen the video, but like just barely. Like I've just worked with them, been in the same room, said some stuff to them. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, I'm wondering what the next move should be. If I should say, hey, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Don't take that serious. That was a complete accident. Yeah, but hey, we'll see what happens. I'm okay with it. So
have you ever seen kind of on the flip side of that, like, or moving forward, I guess then, with when you've been on set, have you ever seen has anything like terrible, catastrophic happened to somebody on set where like maybe a director's like cussing somebody out because they didn't have the lines, they weren't prepared? Has anything like insane ever happened that you've seen on set?
So when I first started doing this, like my first couple months, I started off doing background work because you want to learn how sets work. And I was doing background work. I was just an extra. And this day, this guy was on fire. This director, something was up. And I remember, so they hire what's called stand-ins. You know what a stand-in is?
For the main actors, right?
Yeah, it could be for even the co-stars. So pretty much they'll hire someone that looks
like them from the back or from like the far away, so that they don't have
same height, same hair. They'll hire a stand-in for an actor. So while they're getting their makeup done, reading the lines, you're sitting there standing for hours to get the lighting done. It's a cool job, It's really fun to work. But this show in particular, they give you the script beforehand. They really want you to. They want you to know what's going on. They don't really want you to be off book and know the lines. Some might, but they just kind of want you to know what's going on. And this guy was just, for a stand-in, you really have to be all ears and just know what's going on at all time. When they call second team, which you're part of the second team, you line up, you get, you're there ready. And this guy just was slacking. He's just on his phone. He's AirPods in and like stuff. And I'm just like, wow. Like, this is when I first started. I'm like, this guy's getting paid a lot more than me, and he's just sitting there like. I'll do the stand-in stuff, and he got sent home. He got, just yelled at for, slacking. And then on top of that, one of the extras trying to snap pictures with the actor. That's
my God, yeah,
that's
a big no-no.
Got sent home, fired on the spot. And it's just, it's kind of crazy how, some productions on that level, they're a lot more lenient. They'll be cool with, they want it to be fun, but then some are like,
we're here to do a job.
Yes, turning your phones in this basket right now, and it's like. Yeah, so that was, again, it was a great learning experience as a, high school kid who was tried to do acting and extra work and stuff. Yeah. So I learned to always shut off my phone, and I've never taken a picture with anyone on set. Like, I don't think I ever will, like any of the big actors, because like I guess there is like a professionalism to it where, it kind of makes you feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't want that if I was an actor, like all the time, all the extras or all the people going up to trying to take a picture.
I guess I probably wouldn't be too upset by it if I was the star of the movie and everyone wanted to get a picture with me. But yeah, I get that. I had when I did that Chicago shoot, it was like this big school was like on fire because it was a crossover event. So it was like some like university had like an outbreak in there. Actually kind of weird because it was like right before 2020, and it was like some like biology lab like lit on fire, and there was like a contagion and people were getting messed up. So kind of cool. Meta right there. But during the shoot, there was this outdoor scene. We were outside of the Zurich insurance buildings where they were filming it. They dressed it up to look like a big university. So it was this huge, like, beautiful building, and they got all the fake smoke and everything, and all these trucks, like a huge scene. And they got like like, I don't even know how expensive this fucking Mercedes with this giant crane on it with a, you know, a $40,000 camera on the end of it is driving in, getting the shot. And these two dudes were like just like Naruto running and like like rolling on the ground like in the background. It was like this scene where we were all supposed to kind of just be like, oh my god, like just looking up at the building like in shock and like dismay, like move around a little bit. They wanted us to, you know, pantomime and everything. And these two idiots were just fucking like rolling around on top of each other and like just having like the best day of their lives until they got fucking cussed out and they were like, one more time, you guys are leaving, you guys are done. And the one guy, he was like bragging like literally like a scene before about how he's like done all the other shows except for Fire, and he was so excited to be here for this one. And like he's like was talking shit to somebody else about how like they don't even know what it takes to be an extra, but he like the second he was rolling, he was being a total goofball. And like it was just like the weirdest thing for me to see because I was just so nervous like doing all of it. Had a ton of fun after everything started going, but like I just didn't know, you know, how everything was. And being like the big like crossover episode, it was like I don't know how they usually shoot, but there was like ridiculous amount of equipment, all these main actors from these different shows, and like the director, assistant director, the other director from the other show is there to just like make sure things are being kept how he wants them. And it's just crazy, like all the amount of equipment. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And so there was the only other thing from that day that I like really vividly remember is there was this scene where everybody was like walking, like we're supposed to like kind of quickly like evacuate the building. They didn't want us to run, but they wanted us to like have a sense of urgency. Like if there was a fire, like they would try to kind of keep you guys steady and everything and hope people wouldn't just sprint out of the building, which they probably would. But so there was like a revolving glass door and then 2 vestibules on like each side of it. And so they had like a group of 10 people in each vestibule. And then there was like everybody else was by birthday inside. This is like hundreds of people were here for the shoot. And my birthday's in November. So I'm at the back in the inside. I wasn't picked for the vestibules, and I wasn't like up right in front of the revolving door. So it was like a 12-second shot or something like that. I was like, dude, I did not get up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning, drive my happy ass down here to not get in a scene today. And that was the first scene everyone had gotten called for. So like, cause we were just sitting for hours before then. And so I didn't know if like that's the only scene I'm getting today or what. So I was like, no, I'm not staying back here, dude. And so I just like maneuvered my way through everybody, through all the birthdays, got in front, and I ended up, and it was really awkward at first because after we did the one scene, I finally had gotten outside after like the 4th take. And I was like, all right, dude, where everyone's walking back inside and I'm like looking around like, and I just went into one of the vestibules and I'm just sitting in there. And I ended up meeting a friend of mine now, Ben, who owns his own production company in there. But like him and everybody else that was in there was just looking at me like,
you weren't here last take.
Yeah, because there was 10 people. There's only supposed to be 10 people. Oh, yeah. And then there was 11 this take. And then one of the girls that was in there just left after that next take.
Really?
Just didn't do it. And it was so weird because they would like fill the whole like room up with smoke before we would go, so that when the door would open, it would like look like there's smoke coming out of the building. So it's kind of weird because we had to just sit there and be like, and then they would just fill it up with the fake smoke, and then we'd all just go out. But yeah, I was not about to not be in the scene, so I needed to do
sometimes it. you have to push limits as an extra. You
got to go that extra mile to get your face totally out of focus behind like 4 main actors' heads, but it's worth it.
One of my favorite actors and entertainers, his name's Simon Rex. He's also a rapper, Dirt Nasty. He's one of my favorite humans ever. Okay. He's been acting for years. So in one of these shows, he tells a story about an extra who, as an extra, it's like you want to be noticed somehow, right? And this guy, he wanted, to be noticed in his scene. I think the scene was something like he's supposed to run out of the bathroom. That's it. Yeah. And he did this simple little thing. And again, all he did was he took some toilet paper, stuffed it in his pants, and it was kind of hanging out. A little funny goof, but he wasn't told to do that, and he ran out. And like this was a sitcom, so it's like filmed in front of like a live audience, like back in the the old days, those old sitcoms. And he ran out with the toilet paper hanging out, and the director just like threw him out. He was so mad. And like even like the Simon Rex, he's like, oh man, this is like, that was serious. He didn't think it was anything that major, And even thinking back, it's like that's not like, that's crazy. So that just goes to show you like some sets, everything's different. You have to feel out the vibe, see what you can do. Because he said he was blacklisted, never gonna be on any show again. So I don't know. We'll see.
Gosh, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's really crazy to think about that. How you have to go with the vibes, see what you can do, see what you can't. Yeah. And last couple of times I did extra work, like I remember I was just like, okay, I'm here to do one thing. Like there was even times I was very thankful for the music video we did, because even though that wasn't necessarily extra work, it was a bunch of people, you know, and usually you don't know who you're gonna meet. If there's gonna be some people there, it's like, you know, you'd rather just like not talk to them, or some people just talking about their career as an actor. Like I don't even do extra work. I've been doing this for years, you know. I'm just doing this for some money, and it's just like I don't know. You keep the ego at home and just go there and just, you know, you work. You know, you're there to work.
There's a lot of people like posturing like that there's something else. Like I was super nervous when I was doing, especially even for this music video. Like
yeah, it was a big music video.
Yeah,
was,
and I was super nervous, like meeting people, and you get the sense when you talk to some people, and even certain couple people I met there, where I mean everybody was pretty cool for the most part, but there were a couple people I met there even that were where everybody's like, yeah, I got this thing going on, I got this thing going on, and like I like don't like to bring up like what I have going on right away, and maybe I should, you know, maybe I shouldn't be so like timid about it, and like maybe that would help me make more connections with people, but like I'm just more like I want to hear what they have going on, and I want to like kind of gauge out, and a lot of times people will be giving you the runaround, like they do all this stuff, and then I remember then I like showed somebody what I did, and they're like, oh my god, we should do so, like I should, and I'm like, I thought you said you were doing all this other shit.
You're booked, buddy.
I thought you said you were booked. Like you don't do extra work. I thought like, oh, but now you want to be in like my abs. You want to get paid zero money to be in my skit on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, it's unique, and I didn't even know. I remember even on that music video shoot, I don't even think we talked about you having a podcast till literally us walking to the cars. Like, see, that's like, and that's why I think I vibe with you. You know, I wasn't getting like, you know, here, you know, like some people when they're sitting there like in the, not even just extras, even like on like booking like a co-star speaking role, sometimes there's just people there just, you know, they're just talking about me voluntarily. Yeah. And while, you know, I'm having fun doing it now, you know, I'm enjoying, you know, talking about, you know, my past and, you know, what I've learned now, I don't do it voluntarily. And it kind of just, it gives off a vibe, you know, like, you know, even when people do that when I'm on set, I'm just like, I know you're better than me. I know you've done all this. Like, you're great. Like, yeah, like, let's just, you know, let's just.
It's almost like they're convincing themselves that they're not, that they don't need it. When it's like really, in reality, they just might. They 100%. Just might need to be there telling you how much they don't need it. Because if they didn't have that, they would be very sad.
When it's all said and done, there's, I mean, whether it's background work or a, you know, lead role, you're a huge part of the movie, you know. So go there with, you know, with confidence and just, you know, just leave your ego at home. You know, you're cast and booked to do a certain job. Just go there for that job. You're all working together. It's one big machine, you know, where there's all these moving parts, and even as like a lead actor or even like a background, you're just a small part, you know. The cast and crew, they're all involved. So just go there to work together and just go there with a good, you know, personality, and, you know, save all the, you know, I guess the ego stuff at home.
It's like self-promoter kind of whatever. And I don't think there's like a problem with like letting people know like what you do, like if that comes up. Like obviously we ended up having the conversation and whatnot, but it's like you said, I think it's, you know, you kind of want to vibe. I look at it where I don't want to tell everybody about it, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I would want to tell the people that I would want to maybe work with later
within the same industry, maybe, or just have the same interests,
or have people that I deem it like I don't need everybody to know. Like I'm not like, so I definitely am insecure. That's like, I'm not trying to say I think there's a lot of people that do entertainment and arts and whatnot, like there's some validation that we require or that we want, right? But I don't think I need it. I'm so desperate for it that I need it from every single person, where I would rather have it from the people that I'm like, oh man, you seem cool, or she seems awesome. Like I would, you know, I'll let them know, hey, I do this. Like we should do something, right? And as opposed to just like, hey guys, I'm really cool. I even though I have no way of proving it to you, I just know I'm really cool, and I'm really good at this acting stuff, and I'm really big at this other shit that you guys don't know about, and I can't show you or tell you about. So,
and there's like a happy medium too that even I haven't found yet, because half the time I go work on these projects, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of, and I've always been kind of like this as a quiet guy. I'm not going to sit there and go up to you, hey, what are you doing? Like, hey, what projects you doing? Like, you know, are you an actor? Or you just, you know, how long you been acting? Like, I'm always the person who just kind of sits there, and I'll kind of see how the vibes are. And if there's a conversation they're talking about, I'll jump in. Yeah. And so I'm always there's a happy medium, I think, where you can kind of go there and maybe talk about like what you're doing and stuff, while also just like respecting boundaries. And, you know, and I've yet to find it. I'm kind of just at the I'll talk when I'm talked to.
It's difficult, you know?
Yeah. So it's something weird with being on set, just kind of feeling out the vibes for everything. So.
Well, speaking of feeling out the vibe and trying to get to know people on set, you were in a Chance the Rapper music video.
Yes.
For I believe it was We Go High.
We Go High. Yep. I worked on that for 3 days. It was super cool. We got to work, real close with Chance. His brother was there, Taylor.
Wow.
And it was really fun, working on that and seeing a big artist like Chance, just right there, and he's saying he likes your outfit, or like, hey, I like what the wardrobe did with your outfit. I want him to be seen. Or it was just very cool and inspiring. And that this is when Chance the Rapper was on that show. What's it called? That rap show on Netflix. So he was like fresh in my mind,
Was it the Rapture? It wasn't Rapture, was it?
No, the rap show, where he's like a judge and people go up and.
Oh yeah, I don't know the name of that show. That's on Netflix though, right? It's not.
Yeah, I'm just completely missing what it's called, but so he was fresh in my mind, so it was really cool, and just how big of an impact he's had on Chicago. So
you said he was really involved too in the whole thing, right? Was he talking to you guys specifically, like as extras and everything too?
He would pinpoint everyone, and again, he wanted some people seen with music videos. Again, I mentioned it's so weird because like it's either like everyone's an extra or everyone's like a principal that's featured with the zoom ins. Like that one we did is like, everyone had their big moment with this Chance the Rapper music video. It was a huge, like 50, 60 people in it. And everyone, there was some people who he really liked the look of. Like we were all like homeless teenagers, or just like everyone had unique roles. And again, he was very, very cool with it. And he was, borderline like, directing it as well. He had a vision, he wanted the director. They did really good at like, communicating what he wanted, so it was just cool seeing someone that's made it, whether it's in acting or music, who has made it to that level. Yeah. And again, this is one of those times where I'm just sitting there, I'm taking notes. I'm seeing what they're doing, how they talk to people, how they treat people. And like, I'm learning so much even from sitting there silent. I was blessed for the times we did talk, and all years when he was talking. But yeah, it's a very awesome experience working with people, that have that aura to them,
Yeah, it's an energy, you can tell that he cares. I think
yeah.
Even when I hear him talking in interviews and everything, he seems like somebody that really cares about what he does.
100%, yeah.
I think that's really cool about Chance, for sure. I noticed too, I don't know if he's from Chicago or if he's from where you're from as well, in Peoria, but you and Michael McGruder have worked on a couple different projects. And when I was doing research on you, looking at your IMDb and some of the projects you've been involved with, you did a play a few years ago, Once Upon a Time.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And
Once in a while.
Once in a while.
Yep.
Once in a while, and it was written and directed by him?
Yes. So I met him in acting class. Again, I was taking every acting class I could, and one popped up in Peoria. Again, it's rare, but a local theater was doing it. I'm like, I'm definitely doing this. I don't have to drive down to Chicago. And again, it was one of those things where I was thinking like, I'm taking all these, classes in Chicago. What am I going to get from this? It was like a level 1. At this point, I was already at like the level 3 acting. I've been doing my rounds at like the studios in Chicago. Yeah. So I was taking this like kind of like, okay, I'll go to it. I'm not sure how much I'll get out of it. Again, that was when I should have been more open-minded, because I went there and I met him. He said he was casting for a play. So he held the auditions. I went in there and read for some roles, and that was the first professional paid theater job I've ever done, and this first theater job in general. So that's when I learned everything about like how rigorous rehearsals are and what goes into making a play, and how stressful it is, because it almost feels like no matter how much time you have to rehearse and get ready, it's not enough time. Because we were going up on like the opening weekend, 3 shows in a row. I feel like none of us, we were really ready. We were like, gosh, like it's up this quick, it's come up this quick. Like, so I learned so much, and I'm grateful for meeting him. And we just wrapped up, or it just premiered, that TV pilot he's producing as well, directing and starring in. It's called Peoria, based off our hometown, and he did an awesome job with writing that. Again, it's just a pilot episode, so he's kind of testing waters. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I've had great opportunities with working with him. There's not too many. Now it's starting to grow a little bit, but in Peoria when I first started, there's not too many people like him. And I've worked with a couple others as well from Peoria they're just like a little diamond in the rough, and I think they're really making an impact and inspiring people, because again, it's a small town where the arts isn't really.
It's not a focus, right?
Yeah, it's not a focus. And people like Michael McGruder, and I'd like to say myself, that for started off in that small town, can help people. It can help bring movies, theater, art to this small town of Peoria or
Inspire
Peoria
somebody else
Heights.
who maybe has thought about it, but maybe wouldn't think to get into it because of where they are.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I think that's really cool. And you also, like, in working on all these different projects and whatnot. I mentioned it before we went live to you that when I was doing some digging, I found out that you actually were part of a project that won the best narrative short in the Big Picture Film Festival. Was that last year or this year?
The festival was, gosh, it was definitely last year. It might even been longer than last year.
Okay.
Yes, that was another one shot, and I've only done 2 projects in Peoria, like for TV and film. One by Michael Magruder, and one written by Tanner Robinson. And he is so talented. Again, everyone's telling him, like, once you move out of Peoria and you get to these bigger places, you're going to blow up, because the stuff he does by himself, he has some support and some a little team, but it's really, when it's all said and done, he's doing it by himself. He's showed me, like, his studio and what goes into making these short films. And even that short film you saw, it might have only been 5 minutes. It took a long time, so many shooting days and so much editing to do. And he's just so talented. Working with someone like him that's from Peoria, he's like another one of those people who he's going to inspire people younger than him and really help Peoria and Peoria Heights as
I think it's important, to have people like that are willing to kind of push the envelope and try and do it, even when they look around and there's like, man, there's not a whole lot of this going on around here, So I think it's crazy to just be like, I'm gonna just do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself, and we'll kind of start growing this community that way.
100%. And even right now, I'm working on another project with them, and it's his first feature film. So this is gonna be the first big deal, like feature film, hour, 30 minutes, however long. He's been shooting it for, I feel like, almost a year at this point. Like, he's been shooting it. It's been taking a long time. He's been putting so much money into it, so much investing, and we're shooting that now. And he's again blessed me with a really cool character who's so different from who I am. So it's really fun playing that, and that'll come out probably 2022. It's just a really awesome movie with the classic, lots of violence, money involved. Like, it's just a cool film which I think he's gonna make some great edits from. He's a great editor, as you saw, like, in that short film.
He did some really cool stuff in the one I saw.
He amazes me every time. So I'm excited to see this, and it's not close to being wrapped yet. We still have a lot of shots to do, but
that was called, the one you were in, it was the Gunslinger Mage.
That was the short film we made. And again, when we went to that festival, this was it was global. There was films from everywhere, in this festival. And there were so many great films that I'll just never forget. And there's so many local great films too. And just winning that award, it was it was a great feeling and experience. And it's little wins like that make you. It just motivates you for the future and keeps you pushing. So thanks to Tanner for making me a part of that. And really I'm happy we won that award. He deserves it, more than anyone else.
So for like smaller projects like that and Magruder, that obviously ends up being something really cool, kind of just like this like sporadic opportunity that just kind of falls into your lap, and you get this crazy cool experience. How did those like come up? Is that just like, obviously the Magruder one was the first one, was a local play.
Yeah.
For this one, was it did he do like a local casting call, or did you know him prior to it, or how did that work?
We definitely had mutual friends, because Peoria Heights, it's just
not
like
big.
Yeah, it's the smallest. It feels like the smallest place ever. So, but I did not know him. So I think, again, there's so many like these Chicago casting call Facebook pages that are so useful. It sounds weird, but nowadays, social media, Instagram, Facebook, you'll find jobs. You're gonna find jobs that are not just background work, but you can find that too. But you're gonna find speaking roles that pay well. It's kind of it's kind of unique to see where the industry's going. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I just found that on one of those Chicago casting calls. Though it wasn't in Chicago, you still look for some talent out there, because that's where the big pool of talent is. So you usually post in those.
That's really cool though. That's it just, I don't know, it's definitely inspiring to hear stuff like that, especially here where we are, very small town as well.
Yeah.
So it's similar in the opportunities that are there or lack thereof. So I definitely feel you on that. What's like the hardest struggle or struggles when it comes to being an actor, wanting to pursue this? Like what are the things that maybe people underestimate before they want to get into this? Think, oh man, I want acting, that would be so cool. Oh, that's so cool, Seth, you do acting. What is it that they don't see that maybe maybe even movies don't show when they show kind of like the struggling actor and whatnot? What is it that you kind of have to deal with on a day-to-day basis or month-to-month basis that people don't see?
I'd say the first big thing that comes to mind is being able to balance pursuing, your dream, which is at first not going to bring in revenue,
Yeah.
So balancing that plus your day job or just a part-time job even, that's one of the hardest things that I struggle with, for years until recently where, I need to work to pay my Bradley bills from school, from all my school loans, all rent, car insurance, all this stuff. And sometimes with acting, it's not gonna pay it, or even music or anything in the artistic industry. Anything within the arts entertainment industry, it just might not. You might not make some money that month or months or a year. You really don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the scariest thing about it, and that's one of the hardest struggles is being able to balance your work life and your dreams, because you need to have full availability for these auditions. And like if you do book a job, you're needed for a month. Like right now I'm booked on this movie that I've been working on this whole month. If I was still working at my other job, I even asked them like, hey, I think I got something for the month of June. Like that's not gonna fly. Like can I have this whole month off? Like it's just not a thing. Some companies are, if you're blessed enough to work for a good company, you might be able to, if they know you're an actor, they might support that. But just like with parents first finding out you want to be an actor, most companies are not going to support that either, so they're not going to support you.
Well, it's interesting you joked earlier in the show when one of your teachers had mentioned you're going to be serving for a long time
waiter,
if you want to.
yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting that there's a lot of actors and actresses that did serve for like the longest time
100%.
until they made it. It's interesting too. I know people that have worked in like steakhouses and stuff like that in nicer spots in Chicago, LA and stuff like that too. And they meet famous people that way as well.
Yeah,
and that's like a way, you might, producer might come in or a director, they're not going to probably cast you right there, but you might get to introduce yourself and joke with them about, if they got anything coming up. Most of the time they probably don't want to talk about it, but you're there and you're getting your foot in the door and you start meeting people, shaking hands and stuff. It's kind of networking as well, which is interesting. But I think like what you're saying, I don't even know if serving you'd be able to take a whole month off, and then be like, yeah, sure, we'll keep the job waiting for you when you get back.
Yes.
Like we don't need you for a month, sure.
I did that for pretty much a year straight. The past couple of years, like I've been getting more stuff that like actually pay and actually are like professional jobs. So I've had to quit. So I've worked everywhere. I've worked at every single job because they're not gonna, they don't like that you have to call off for like, hey, tomorrow I have an audition. I know I work 6 a.m. to 12, but the audition's at 7. Like I can't come in. Like okay, can you find someone to fill your shift? No one's gonna fill your shift. Like no one. It's hard to do that to begin with. So it's stressful trying to balance that. And again, I've had to leave so many jobs, because of that. Because it's like, I don't know why. I think the working systems, it's kind of sad that you can't, call off stuff like that, or there's not a lot of people. Just don't have a lot of people to work. There's not a lot of workers right now.
Yeah.
So that's a big struggle, and another struggle is this. This is kind of obvious, but the rejection part of it. You know what I mean? Just constantly. That's something that I don't think has gotten better for even myself, but I don't think anyone down the line. Like there will be something you audition for, and you're just in your heart, you're like, I'm made for this role. Like I've done so much preparation for this, and I like the best auditions I've sent in where I'm like, that's the one. I've never booked one of those, and that's like everything I have booked. It's kind of like those ones I send in. I'm like I'm not feeling this one.
50,
it's what
50,
I forgot about it. It's whatever. But those ones you really put your heart into. It seems like to be the ones you don't get. So that's the hard part, is this rejection and the heartbreak of it. Again, those 3 hour, back when I was in Peoria Heights, those 3-hour drive homes from those auditions, you think about all that, all the negative stuff of it. And, it's kind of it all depends on who you work with and who you surround yourself with, but it can be, a negative industry for sure, because then you'll start thinking, oh, why didn't I get cast for that? Or, some people will even go the length of telling you why you didn't get cast, and it might not be the best thing,
I feel like there's definitely a lot of I feel like it's a tough industry to be insecure about, and I feel like everybody's insecure.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it's just like amplified in entertainment in general. I know even doing YouTube videos and making music, it's like sometimes the song, like you're describing with auditions, sometimes I'm like, this video, man, this one's gonna go. Like people are gonna really love this one. No one watches it, and then it's like somewhere it's like, I had fun doing that one. I edited up whatever, and then that's the one that
boom blows
that
up.
goes right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that
there's no formula, you know.
Yeah,
That's what's
we don't know, you know. Other people are gonna, and I think like we were saying towards the beginning, with wanting to do it because you love it instead of, you know, for the money or for what other people. That's something that I think translates into across everything, and even with that, with being, you know, having to deal with rejection, because if you're just doing it because you love it, you know, you just go in, you do your best. If you're happy with it, then that's all that matters, you know, because they might say, like you said, you might put your heart and soul into it, and they might say, no, we don't want it. You might just not look the way we want you to look, you know, as it comes down to. And that's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about that.
Nothing. It doesn't matter how much classes you've taken. Sometimes it just comes down to literally, we want someone with blonde hair and blue eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's, you know, sad about it. That's what's crazy. Or, you know, a lot of it's, again, who you know, like we said, or sometimes people just walk in with this energy, this aura. They're just a people person. They already like that person more than, you know, you. It doesn't matter what performance you put on. But that's only sometimes, you know, some directors, it just kind of all depends. That's why I feel like nowadays I go in there, or I send my audition in, I just forget about it. And I try to, at least. It's easier said than done, because there's still some of those roles where it's like, I sent in nothing wrong with that. Like, if I don't book this, it's because of my hair or something, or because like it's because of something, because that was perfect. So again, this is a lot of deep thoughts, you know, after you send these things in, and nights where you're sitting there like, man, why am I doing this? This is so crazy. And then the next day you book something and you're good for a month. And then the next month you're down, like, man, this sucks. Like, I'll go apply at Kroger and work at and then the next day you get booked for, you know, it's just ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And that's something that I will never get used to, I think. You know, I'm still navigating that. And again, this summer has been, you know, the best summer, as in I've just been able to focus on just, you know, being creative and just like the projects and all the movies, because I've been lucky enough that COVID kind of pushed everything back to just this summer. So it's like, I'm just totally happy to say that I have stuff going on this summer, first time ever, where I'm booked and I'm just working on movies and I'm around people that I love, and I'm learning so much from everyone. So, but it's just hard. You just never know. You know, I don't know what I'll be doing like in 2 months, like after all these projects book, what am I going to be doing, you know? So, and that's even on like the bigger levels. Of course, you're going to be getting paid probably 80 grand for, you know, a lead role on some of these levels. So you have some leeway, but even after that movie, the successful actors, I've heard they still have that like that almost post-depression after you wrap your project and it's out. Now what? You know, like you're only as good as your last project. Now what am I going to do? You're just waiting for the phone to ring and waiting for the emails to come of getting booked. So.
What keeps you going? I know you mentioned earlier that you, before we went live, you got a puppy at home, and you mentioned during the show you got a girlfriend as well. You got a good support system around you that can help you navigate those highs and lows. Is that important in trying to do this as well?
Yes. First off, the puppy. Yes, my best friend, new puppy. He's a Shiba Inu, so so you know, like the Doge, is it Dogecoin?
Yes, yeah.
So it's that, but mine's just cuter. Mine's just a lot more adorable. His name's Miles, and he's like my best friend. He's only 4.5 months, and so yeah, that's been, you know, cool being a new puppy dad. But as far as what keeps me going, and like my girlfriend, she's actually probably the biggest reason why I even pursued acting, because I met her in college, and we were both majoring, and she was like nursing, and I was like at that point, I don't know, business, education. I was something stupid or random, and we just kind of sat down and like, what do we want to do like for our futures? This is what we really want to do. She didn't really want to be a nurse. It was kind of like, you know, her parents wanted her to be a nurse, and I definitely didn't want to be whatever I was majoring in, physical therapy, whatever. And so we sat there and like we asked what we wanted to do, and of course she brought up she wanted to be a teacher. But, you know, a lot of teachers, they don't want to, a lot of people are scared of teaching for other reasons, like the pay and stuff. So they don't do they hear about how bad teachers are paid, so they don't switch their major to teaching, even though it's like, that's their passion. And same with me, acting, even like on the same scale. It's like, even at my college, there was probably 15 theater majors. So even there, it was kind of like, it was a small college to begin with, but even then it was kind of like, you know, frowned upon. And I was even in a fraternity, which was pretty much another regret of mine, was being in a fraternity in general.
I'm not gonna lie, fraternities scare me.
Yeah, no, it was just another regret, just financially and just mentally. It was just a bad regret. But I remember even talking to some of them, like, I'm gonna do theater, like I think I'm gonna switch my theater major. And again, just not, like, even there, like, it's just nothing but like, come on,
you
man.
get some sideways looks for sure.
Yeah, and again, even like my family, like I went to high school, I got, you know, great grades in high school, small high school once again. So I got top 10, but I only had to beat out like 30 other kids. So it's not like, You know, if I got top 10 in my class, so on paper it looks good, but so everyone's like, if you don't go to college and major in one of these, you know, big degrees, you're wasting all your hard work of what you've had in the past. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just yeah.
It can be tough, but it's good, like you said. You know, you got your girlfriend and your puppy and you to kind of all, you know, chase your dreams together. You know, obviously
Yeah.
you're both doing different things, but you have someone to fall back that believes in you and you believe in them. And so I think like that's got to be pretty important, because without that, with those highs and lows, I mean, I know from like doing creative stuff as well. It's one day you're on top of the world. You just wrote this song that you're like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. Like, I want to sing this every day. I want everybody to hear this. And then the next day you're 2 days later, you've got, you know, writer's block, and you can't figure out a script for this next series you want to do, or this thing for your channel. You can't make this edit the way you want to, or you're looking at footage and you're like, God, this all sucks. I hate this. I hate like, and it's really tough. You can go on a downward spiral quick. So, you know, it's important to have those people around you, I think. So
Yeah, again, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have taken that path. And she's, you know, in my mind, almost allowed me to pursue it. She's just been so supportive of it. And, you know, when I do have those lows, which are often with this business,
Yeah.
luckily not recently, but when you do have those lows, you know, you're just sitting there like beating yourself up, like, you know what I mean? Like, and just having that person there just kind of like helping to get through it, it really helps, you know, because my parents are so on board with it now, but like at first, you know, you kind of, they weren't necessarily not, you know, agreeing with it, but just like Seth, like, you need to get a degree, like you need to get a degree in something and then pursue acting. But I'm like, in my mind, that sounds like a good idea, but like I gotta switch schools, and I don't even want to go to that stress of switching schools, because if I stay with this, I'm paying $100,000, you know, for something I don't even want to do. So my parents weren't necessarily not, you know, helpful or not supportive, but they just like, they were like raising eyebrows. But now like my dad and my mom, they're just so, you know, they're so into it, and they just love hearing my projects. And you know, they are supporting me so much. All my family, even my, you know, my sister, all of them, they're just all very, cool. very, very supportive of it. I think at first it's just a shock, you know, like, oh, like you're you know, dropping out.
You gotta think too, it's not a regular, like, there's not a, I shouldn't say it's not a lot of people. There's a lot of people that do it, but there's not, when it comparatively to every other field, like every other field is kind of lumped together, like all these like regular careers, when it comes to like anything in entertainment or the arts or anything, that's kind of,
it's not consistent.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not consistent. It's weird. It's hard to gauge if you're not in, like, you don't really know what to expect from that kind of field, especially if you're not in it. Even if you are in it, like we're saying right now, you don't know in a couple months from now what kind of projects you're going to be doing.
100%.
So it's like, even people that are in it, we don't know what we're doing. So it's like, you know, it's hard for people that aren't, you know, in that, or they're going to school to get a regular 9 to 5, or maybe they go straight into the workforce. Like, it's hard for those people to kind of wrap their head around it, and I don't blame them, because I don't get it either, you know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do it.
I'm confused right now. I don't know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But like, even like the people who have like made it, like, you know, quotes, like, who have made lots of money, millions of dollars, they have all the cars, the houses. There's even some years where, you know, they don't book anything, and then there's you hear it all the time, where these celebrities who, you know, I grew up watching, they're going bankrupt, foreclosure on their house, they can't afford their house anymore because they're just not booking some jobs right now. So the money's like, it's sad that it's so important, obviously, but like, it's so important to be able to manage your money, because, you know, I can book a job, you know, tomorrow that pays 80 grand, and then, but I might not book nothing for 3 years. So that 80 grand divided by 3 years is not a whole lot.
Yeah,
you know
not
what
enough.
I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what's kind of scary about it. And I think that's why a lot of eyebrows are raised when you know, or first say you want to be an artist of any sort, because there's not that consistency, there's not that guarantee.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, again, a lot of people are, you know, their eyebrows are raised.
What's like if you had to name one or any, what's like a misconception when it comes to like extra work or background acting?
Misconception,
or something that people think about extras that maybe isn't true.
Man, let me think. I don't even know. Background work, it's just, background work is so unique and is so different every time you do it. I don't know. It's very hard to say. I think one misconception is a lot of people think when you do background work, it's going to, you might have I mean, it's possible. Like, some people do background work and they get like upgraded on set. Like, they'll get like a line given to them by the director, and then all of a sudden you're in the show. Like you're in the credits, you're getting paid a lot more. But a lot of people I've talked to who do background work, they cross their fingers every time before they go on set to get a line given to them. That's like one of those things where it's like you can't. That's like a 0.1% chance that a director is going to give
you. It's
like
playing the lottery.
Yeah, and because mostly it's like one line. And I mean, really think about if that production wants to give you an extra $1,000 to say, "Hello, sir," or something like that. So a lot of like people who first start off their background, they think that they're going to go in on this show and then be the star of it or get a line. So I think this industry it sucks you, but you should never get your hopes up. Just never get your hopes up. And I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me before, where you're on set when you first start and you are a background person and you're bumped up to this bigger thing. And it happens, but it's just like if you go in there with these like
expectations every time.
Yeah, you just don't expect anything in this industry because you just never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment for sure. I know I was watching this Key and Peele skit the other day, and I was watching old skits of theirs because currently working on writing some comedy stuff. So I kind of wanted to get an idea of how they kind of structure their skits and everything. And there was this one they did about extras on like Walking Dead, like on like zombie, because zombie TV was super big for a while, and I think The Walking Dead is still going on, right? I
think so.
I think it's like on the last season or something. It's like 18 or 20
seasons. It's up there. If it's still going, it's up there.
Yeah. And so it was this skit about extras, and it was funny. One of the comments, because there were extras in this skit, and one of the comments was like, imagine being an extra in a skit about extras.
Yeah,
and, like, that shit was hilarious to me. But so these two guys, Key and Peele, obviously, one of them, it's his first day ever being an extra, and the other guy's like been doing it all the time. Like he's been stuck in being an extra. He's like, man, I've been on the show for 15 years, blah blah blah. He's like, he's explaining to the guy, he's like, man, if they pick you for whatever, like you get the what did he call it, the lunge bump. And he's like, what does that mean? He's like, well, they're gonna have one of us like lunge at the cage, and that guy we get the bump then. And the other guy's like, oh, okay. And he's terrible, like the guy who just started, he's awful. And the whole like premise of it is he gets picked for the lunge bump, and the guy who's been there for 15 years is like, dude, are you kidding me? And he's all pissed off. And the dude does it, and he like the scene, like he like goes up on the fence, and he's just like makes this like squeal noise, and he's like, dude, you're doing like he's doing so bad. And he's like messing up the whole shoot, but the director's not even noticing, and the one guy ends up getting kicked off because he's like freaking out that this other dude got picked for it. And it's a funny skit. I think you would appreciate it as someone who's like done that kind of stuff. So there's
even a TV show just straight up called Extras, and I think it's a little older, but you should. It was on Netflix at one point, and I watched it, and I laughed for hours. And it's like this very dry comedy about the real things that go on, when you are doing like extra work. And it's just I don't know, it's very, very, very funny. And as you said, like that bump, that's also another joke that's in that show. Like they're all fighting for some type of bump. Like, oh, you get rained on in this scene, man, I want to get this wet bump, $20. Like I want to be picked for this scene. Like It's a very weird thing, and it's so different from like actually acting. Like that's why there's some people who don't like even like they go hand in hand, but then some people are they just want to do background, and that's just, they don't want to audition, and that's like totally cool. Some people like just want to do extra work, and they do it well, and they make a living out of it. Like with all the shows in Chicago, there's some people who really make a living from doing like the background work. And then but there's some people who do background work that want to be an actor, and it's hard to find that happy medium, because if you just do a lot of background work and it's hard to be taken seriously as an actor auditioning for these big roles. And because you have to have so much time set aside for being booked for this background stuff. And that's why at one point I stopped doing it just to kind of switch gears. And I learned so much on set as an extra already, so it's like I've learned a lot. It's time for me to like just focus on the other stuff and
gain some new experiences. I get that.
But honestly, there's always, if a good opportunity arises, do it. Like there's working on a set with great people. It doesn't matter what role you are, if you're crew or cast or background, whatever. There's a learning opportunity, and again, you might meet the right people. One of the best people I ever met was when I was an extra. It's my second time ever. It was on a Netflix show called Easy. I met someone who's practically like I consider my coach at this point. He had like a speaking role on it.
Wow.
And he went and came and talked to all of the background, which is kind of rare. You see someone who has a principal role come up and be like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And he did, and his energy, I just like, again, it's like one of those people who walk, he's like larger than life, he walks in the room and people just kind of, like he has that energy. So I straight up, I was talking to him, reached out to him, and it turns out like he's been doing acting for years. He's, professional, and since then, I've been in like 2 or 3 of his classes. He's helped me with countless of auditions. He's been reasons why I've booked certain auditions, and that all came from being a background extra. Like my first month of trying to be an actor, so I met someone who.
Yeah, I think it's cool the people you can meet. You know, like it's definitely, like you said, it's probably really hard to find the balance. But if you can, I feel like you can meet some really like interesting people that potentially down the road could be, you know, a door to other opportunities like that. So
100%.
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's really neat. What else? Where are we at? We're at about the hour and 20 mark. Seth, do you got any pressing matters? Any questions for me? Anything you want to leave the audience with before we end up wrapping here?
I'll leave the audience with some of the projects I'm doing now if they want to check them out.
I would love that.
I contacted all the directors and I got the okay to give out some of this information, and it's just kind of cool because again, this summer I've been working on a lot of things, and I've been honored to work on it, and I've been working with some pretty cool names. So the one thing I'm working on this summer, it's wrapping up this week. It's been this whole month. It's kind of almost in the best way possible. Felt like a day job because I'm there like Monday. I'm on it 4 or 5 days a week. The shoots are 8 to 12 hours. Like I've been there this whole month. This whole month's been dedicated to this movie. So it's awesome. It's called The Crusades. It's directed by Leo Milano. He's from Chicago, and he's had a couple runs with this movie before. Like he tried to make it into a TV show not too long ago. He tried to make it into a short film, but now he made it into a feature film, and he has some big names. Rudy Ponco, who's from Outer Banks. It's a Netflix show. I've been able to just being in the same room with him and just being able to talk to him. It's inspiring beyond belief. Showing up to work every day, with someone who has made it. There's even like other actors like Khalil Everidge. He's from Netflix Beats and Cobra Kai, and then Nick Turturro, which I mentioned earlier, the guy from Longest Yard that played Brucey. Just being in the same room with them because they've been doing it for years, you know. And again, just sitting there, you have to sit there and take notes at that point. Know your part, and just like they're at this point all of them are very nice, coming up to you, talking to you. So it's very cool just to be able to learn from them.
Is it intimidating at all?
At first, when you see them, when you first see them down the hall, like you're getting ready for your scene, you kind of see him down there. I'm like, oh, that's him. You're kind of like, but again, like at that point, like I've kind of learned just to be like, okay, it's a coworker at this point. You know what I mean? Like I'm working with them, and again, just working on any movie for a month it's a blessing. So I really do think this one's probably going to make it to Netflix or something. They have a lot of Netflix stars in it, and the script it's like a high school dark comedy, and it's an awesome script, and I think it will go far with this one. And then also this month, this project I'm most excited about. This is one of those projects that got postponed. I booked it almost over a year ago. It was supposed to shoot last summer, but COVID kind of put a hold on things. It's called Final Summer. It's directed and written by John Iceberg, and it's one of the coolest films I've ever read as far as a script. It's a 90s slasher, so it kind of, it's a little time capsule. Okay. Has a little bit of like Scream, Friday the 13th type of vibes to it. And I just think it's something that we really need, like as an audience. There's not too many of those movies that, give you that feeling anymore. Like I haven't watched a movie like Scream, or Friday the 13th. Like I don't know if you've seen them, but the first time you watch those for the first time, like the first time you watch them, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that first time you watch that film.
That tension that builds throughout the whole movie, basically,
Even reading the script, you get that, like, you just get that feeling. And so we're starting to shoot, like, next month, and it's already, just the pre-production and the talking about it, it's already one of the best experiences of my life, just because the person who's writing, John Iceberg, who's writing and directing it, he has that passion, like, working with someone who has that crazy passion. It's almost an honor to be in the same room as them because that passion like bleeds onto you. Like at some point it's like, this is his project. I want to, do justice by it. He has, confidence in me as an actor. This is my project now. Like it feels like my project. Like I have to, make this movie the best it can be because it's inspiring being by someone like that.
I think that's probably part of the reason you're picked for something like that. I think that you're gonna do great if that's your mindset towards it.
Thank you.
I think that's I mean, just truly, like, just even hearing you speak about it, I know, like, from doing creative endeavors myself and having other people, like, bring other people on board to help and whatnot, it's not everybody has the same mindset that you just explained. So it's, that's probably very refreshing for the people you're working with as well.
Thank you for noticing that. And to follow it on Instagram, I think The Crusades is The Crusades Film. You can follow it. And then Final Summer, definitely follow that on Instagram. I think it's this Final Summer Movie on Instagram, and not much have been posted on either one because they're filming, and well, this one's going to be filming soon, but behind the scenes and all types of release dates will be posted on it soon. But I have not been more proud of these any other projects but these two right here, but especially the Final Summer one. I have a really great feeling about that, and I feel like a lot of people will really, really like it because there's just nothing like it nowadays, you know?
Yeah. That's really sweet, man. Well, I'm excited to check these out, and obviously you probably don't have any type of release dates or anything for us. I'd imagine.
I wish
probably
I knew.
Can't tell us anyways if you did.
It's estimated like probably 2022, so it's probably gonna be it's gonna be a little bit, you know, but who knows? I mean, it might even be 2023. We'll see.
Maybe we'll get you and some other castmates on closer to release.
100%. 100%.
So, well, I appreciate you being on, Seth. It was a lot of fun getting to talk to you and pick your brain. I hope we didn't bore you with some of these questions. We really wanted to know some of this stuff, and I think it's really fascinating, like the whole culture that is around like acting, especially at the level that you're at, you know, where you're kind of working your way up still. And I think
transition phase, yeah,
and I think, you know, there's probably a lot of people that are curious and would love to be in the position that you're in. And so, and I think that, you know, the things you kind of explained and laid out here today, I think a lot of that's important. So I'm very thankful that you were able to share that with us today. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you to the D-Bags, of course. You know, it's honestly an honor to be on here, and I'm glad I got to talk to you. Again, just like every other experience, I've learned some things as well just from sitting down and talking. So it's been awesome. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. I want to, thank you to you for coming on. I also want to say thank you to our patrons for supporting us over on Patreon. They should be on the screen right now. If you guys are curious as to what we post on Patreon, we have exclusive behind-the-scenes content, early access to content, including some new podcasts and other shows and series that we're launching there first before they make it to YouTube and anywhere else. I also post how I make and produce all of my music over there. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, go to patreon.com/DarrenRita. You can join for as little as $1 a month. Help support the channel, and we post some fun stuff over there. I also want to say thank you to Kenosha Auto Insurance for sponsoring this episode, and thank you to everybody who tuned in live or is listening days after on Spotify.